I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is 13-year-old Madeline Soto, a young girl from Central Florida whose life ended way too soon. But the circumstances surrounding her murder paint a tragic picture of a girl whose mother didn't do enough to protect her. Here's the story. Madeline Soto had just turned 13. She had a party on Sunday, February 25th. The party wasn't at her house, but at the home of a relative. Her mom, Jenn Soto, couldn't go to the party because she was working. So Madeline's aunt dropped her off after the party. That night, Jenn's on-again, off-again boyfriend, Stephan Sterns, was at the house to watch Madeline. Jenn got home around 10. At around 11, Jenn went to sleep and told Stephan to go to sleep with Madeline in the guest bedroom upstairs. That was the last time Jenn saw Madeline alive. Stephan says he dropped Madeline off at school in the morning, but Madeline never made it to school. She was murdered and discarded about 20 miles from her home. Prosecutors have charged Stephan with that murder, but they've also charged him with something else: years of sexual abuse. They say they found incriminating images of Sterns abusing Madeline on his Google Drive, abuse that goes back more than 4 years. Meanwhile, Madeline's mom has been intensely questioned by detectives, but has not been charged with anything. Let's focus in on Stephan Sterns. He's the one facing charges. He's the one facing potential death sentence for all of this. So the case begins as a missing child, but then they get his phone. He said he accidentally did a factory reset, but they're still able to get into his Google Drive. He doesn't know that until he's confronted in the police interview. Let's watch.
I understand that you gave the deputies consent to look through your phone. You did? Okay. And you voluntarily gave it to them so they could bring it here to do the extraction and stuff like that. Okay. What do you think was on the phone?
Text messages. Emails. Phone stuff.
Pictures?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of pictures were on there?
Training card pictures, lightsaber pictures, Disney pictures.
Do you have a Google account?
Yeah.
Do you save pictures to your Google account?
Sometimes. Yeah.
Or is it automatically? I know sometimes phones sync to a cloud and...
Yeah, I think it backs up to Google.
And then sometimes when you reset your phone and your phone updates and puts these apps back on your phone, sometimes they will put the images back on your phone.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you have
I assume so.
any pictures of you?
Probably. I mean, we went to Disney, took selfies on the train. She got back from Puerto Rico and had her hair braided. We got pictures of that. All sorts of pictures. Family events. I'm not as much of a shutter button. I take them every once in a while.
Any other pictures that you think of? Here's where I'm going to be brutally honest with you. There's your phone. And I'm pretty sure you know what some of those pictures are about. You're a very intelligent person. And I don't want you to discredit yourself by saying you don't know about all the pictures that are on your phone. You understand what I'm saying? So do you want to add to the list of pictures?
I don't know. Should I be talking with a lawyer right now?
That's the moment. That's the moment where his brain's got to be churning. They've got the pictures. They've got the videos. So here's my first question, because it gets into the mind of Stephan Sterns. And I'm wondering, did Stephan Sterns think he would get away with it? Whether it's the abuse or the allegations of the murder? Because at that moment, once he starts talking about a lawyer, I don't think he's thinking he's getting away with it at that moment. But before that, did he think he was going to? Let me bring in my guests so we can work through this tonight. Joining me, the host of Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel, who has all of these videos, all of the material on the case. Gisela Kay is with us. Also joining us, jury consultant, human behavior expert, Susan Constantine is with us as well. Great to see you both. Gisela, you've gone through all of the interviews, every time he's on camera, whether it's local news, whether it's body cam videos, some of the audio interviews. Did you get a sense either way that he was confident before that moment that, hey, he's going to get away with it?
Absolutely. I mean, think about, there's so many things that I could list. The changing of the clothes, but the most shocking to me is that he drove around with Madeline's deceased body strapped into his dad's passenger seat for 2 hours, then moved her body at like a headquarters, right? And afterwards put her body in the trunk and went to chit-chat with Jenn. That is next level arrogance and probably stupidity as well, let alone going to the dumpster back and forth 5 times that day. I really think that he thought he's going to get away with all of this.
Susan Constantine, what did you see in that moment when he's finally confronted, like before, in the build-up to that moment? Did you get a sense of change from him? Was there any little tell that all of a sudden his mindset has changed, that maybe he thought he was going to get away with this?
Yes, if you go like 2 seconds before that, you'll notice before that he doesn't really, it doesn't show a lot of eye blinking because he's really concentrating, he's deflecting, he's not looking at the officers. But then, right when he's asked that question, watch his eyes. All of a sudden, it speeds up. He's got this very quick little, rapid little eye flutters, and that's where cognitive load builds. He also gets really quiet and super still. Now, he's very still here. He's very guarded, very self-protective. He doesn't make eye contact. And he's very sheepish. So he knows that they're onto something. He's trying to figure out, what do you know, and how far should I go to exposing what was on that camera. So he was going through all these little plethora of things, starting with the text messages. But I wanted you to pay attention to the volume, the tone, and the pitch of his voice. When he is asked questions, when it comes to the text, what happened? His pitch dropped. So when they do that, that's in secretive. That's one of the points of interest that we look for deception. Cluster there, highly deceptive behavior.
And what do you think of this? This is him prior to the interview beginning. There's all this video of him alone in the room. What are you seeing here?
These are all self-grooming gestures, because when he's pinching the nose, there's tension. He's clearing his eye, the stuff out of his eyes. He's just trying to occupy his time. And what he's doing is he's thinking and he's processing. And also there was other pieces of that where he starts yawning, and then of course he falls asleep and he bends over. So and I'm sure we're going to be looking at those right there. This is where he's like collapsing. Often we see this when somebody knows they're in big trouble and they're usually close to confession, although he is going to blame this on, I haven't had any sleep, I've been medicated, and that's his default. Remember, I shared with you before, he is a vulnerable narcissist. So what that means is, oh, poor me, things have been, so wrong, I'm so tired, I've been up all night long, I've been heavily medicated, so that he can use the fact that he doesn't have correct memory, and he's got brain fog, and that's the reason why he doesn't remember specific incidences, as we'll probably see in a little bit. And the yawning is another big one. Yawning, sipping water, all of those are distractors.
I want to take a listen to one of his audio interviews, and in this moment is when he's caught by investigators lying.
Make a U-turn, you go back to the McDonald's. But you said that she still doesn't want the McDonald's.
Still doesn't want it. She was just going to eat the danishes that I had given her.
So you're going up here now, still northbound on Jonghyuk Parkway. You make a left at Town Center this time.
Town Center, then make a right onto, yes.
And then you drop her off around like...
Dropped her off around halfway up the road there.
Okay. So keep in mind, all of this is still northbound.
Okay.
Right? You're still northbound on Jonghyuk Parkway.
Northbound.
So... why is your car seen going southbound at 8:10? I'll show you what location it is. McDonald's is over here. At 8:10, your car is seen going southbound at this intersection. So meaning going toward Kissimmee.
I had forgotten something. I had forgotten my gate clicker. I'm sorry. I forgot. I had gone back to the house real quick after we left because I forgot my gate clicker. I actually had to go through the front gate and use my parking pass to grab my clicker. So it was the wrong time. I'm sorry. Like I said, I was guesstimating these times. I'm not a morning person.
Gisela, this is, I believe, when investigators know they're onto something for sure, because what he's describing doing there makes no common sense as to why you would take the route that he's alleging to have taken here.
It makes no sense, and I think he'd been so used to telling Jenn a story for so long, at least since 2019, and her just believing him, that he didn't realize that, okay, most other people won't believe you. Firstly, why would a child ever say no to McDonald's? Why would he say, I'm not a morning person? But then he's up so early. He's like making good time. Why is he like, wow, I'm surprised there's not more cameras around? They are. It really is 2024, and there's cameras everywhere, and they caught you all over the place. So I don't know who he thought would believe this story and all the others he also told.
And Susan, sounds like an obvious lie to me, knowing some of the facts here, but does he have some tells as well in the way he tells the lie?
Sure. I mean, he uses a lot of what we call passing in time, so he's very ambiguous. He doesn't really know. He comes across as being very certain about things, and then all of a sudden, when he's brought attention to, well, you were going the opposite direction. Oh, lapse of memory. So it's very vague memory. He kind of switches back and forth, and what he's doing is just kind of playing with the officers, trying to figure out where they're going, so he knows what direction to go into. And then you could pick it up where he says the word actually, and actually is when you have two opposing thoughts. It could have been this or it could have been that. So and again, we get into that voice pitch. He also says, okay, he admits it. So there's that long pause. He's thinking, he's processing very quickly, but what he does is he internalizes. When he's internalized, he's trying to think very quick and very fast, but he has the tells, because then he goes, okay. And I bet you if you watch him really closely, he probably would give him a short little head nod like this, and it would be an affirmation.
Actually, we have a commercial coming up. Coming up next, was Stephan Sterns using Jenn Soto to get to Madeline?
She was so happy, too. She was looking forward to my visit here. She was looking forward to us all being together. I loved her like she was my own.
A clown with balloons and flowers and a gun?
A mother's life cut short by a clown at her doorstep.
One little bizarre incident and story after another.
Marlene was telling people she was scared of her husband right before her murder.
It was rumored that Sheila Keene and Michael Bourne were having an affair.
That is unreal.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. All new Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
She brings a lot of joy. She's a very good girl. It definitely doesn't feel the same around here if she's not here. She was so happy, too. She was looking forward to my visit here. She was looking forward to us all being together. She was just happy. She was just very happy. Oh, well. I loved her like she was my own.
Now, even if you didn't know that he's accused of being a sexual abusing pedophile, even if you didn't know he's accused of murder, you would listen to that. There's something wrong with that voice. It's just creepy. It's creepy. But you listen to what he's talking about. He's talking about a little girl that's not his daughter, a little girl that he was allegedly abusing for years. His friend Frank, I don't know if that's his real name, spoke with police and gave a little more insight here into the relationship of Stephan Sterns, Madeline, and her mother, Jenn. I asked Frank if he had any conversations with Stephan about his sex life. Frank stated no. However, they would be out and an adult female would be interested in Stephan, and Stephan showed zero interest. Frank said Stephan was talking about he and Jennifer ending their relationship, and Madeline's name came up during the conversation. He was more upset about the bond he created with Madeline than having a relationship with Jennifer. So here's the question. I think this is an important one. Maybe it's self-evident based upon the allegations. Maybe it's not. But here it is. Was Stephan Sterns using Jenn Soto to get to Madeline? Was this just the instrument so he would have access to a little girl? Still with us, host of the Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel, Gisela K. And joining us now, psychotherapist, CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey. Gisela, I need some clarification because the more I learn, the more confused I get about the nature of the relationship between Stephan Sterns and Jenn Soto. Were they or were they not a couple at the time Madeline went missing? If not, what was the nature of their relationship at that time? And what was like the history of this relationship?
So if you look at what they had in common, both of them they had no jobs, not much money, they like to sleep a lot, they like to take pills. That's what they had in common. So Jenn said they broke up in December of 2022. And he moved upstairs to the guest bedroom 2023. And so already then, that's a bit weird that he's living there. She's saying, well, we're best friends, we're really close. But then she asked him to move out. So what changed? I'd love to know what changed. And she said her medication, made her not want to really have any drive to be intimate with him. So that also wasn't part of the picture. So how can she then be like, wow, like Stephan and Maddie are the same? They have so much in common, the Tamagotchis and all the art and painting the figurines. So they watch movies together and they go upstairs together, basically. So it sounds to me like Stephan was really just there for Maddie and to, of course, film the roommates under the door because that happened as well, because he's that much of a creepy predator.
Let me ask you, Dr. Janie Lacey, was Sterns using Jenn to get to Maddie?
Well, with all of the evidence and all that we know, my assumption would be that this predatorial behavior was not his first rodeo. So when we have these predatorial type behaviors, they can potentially target single mothers who are overwhelmed, who need the help, and who have the children that they need the help with. And if Jennifer is a certain level of vulnerability in the sense of giving, exhausting, and then now he's coming in potentially imposing, because especially if he has high, what we call covert narcissistic traits or vulnerable narcissistic traits, they study the women that they go after. They find out exactly, we call it love bombing in a different sense, but they go exactly and look to see exactly what they need. And if she needed help, just running her household, whatever that may be, him coming in as the predatorial would be that knight in shining armor and would fulfill whatever help she has. And then she lets down love bombing is to disarm the person. So it would disarm Jenn, and then now he has access to her daughter, to her home, and pretty much the story we're hearing is he ran the house like it was his own. And she's going away, sleeping, letting her daughter go upstairs with him, all these types of things. So trust had to be built over time, and especially the covert narcissistic type predators are very calculating, and they're very strategic in building the trust of the person who they want to disarm, so they have access to the things that they want to have access to.
Yeah, Gisela, when you think about the lives they're leading and the lives that they lead, that's the world that Maddie was living in. You got two people who don't work, two people who don't do anything. They seemingly have no aspirations to do anything. It's really kind of depressing, Gisela.
It's beyond depressing. She didn't even have her own room. She had this makeshift room with room dividers. She had no privacy, and then she just had these two adults, of which one eventually was just an ex-boyfriend, you know, just visiting on her special occasion for her birthday party. He was also apparently there for Christmas and Thanksgiving, just to ruin any joy she could really have. It must have been so frightening and depressing to be a child in that situation, with no one really protecting you, no one helping you, and just this guy saying, I'm the person you can come to if you need to cry. Like, I'm there for you. I'm that good guy. See, your mom's asleep. It's terrible.
Beyond tragic. Gisela K, Dr. Janie Lacey. I'm Vinnie Politan. We are going to keep digging for answers as the investigation continues. I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of 13-year-old Madeline Soto, a young girl who needed someone to protect her, not from strangers, but from those closest to her. Here's the story. Madeline Soto's life was difficult. Her dad lived out of state, so she was being raised by her single mom, Jenn Soto. Jenn had an on-again, off-again relationship with a man named Stephan Sterns. Sterns didn't work much. He didn't own much. So he spent a lot of time over the years living in the house with Jenn and Madeline. Then, in a very strange arrangement, Sterns would sometimes sleep with Jenn and Madeline, and sometimes with just Madeline alone. Jenn says she didn't suspect anything was going on, but when Madeline went missing and was found murdered, detectives told Jenn Sterns had pictures on his phone of Madeline being sexually abused by Sterns. Her reaction to all of that raised a lot of eyebrows and a lot of suspicion. But Jenn hasn't been charged with anything, and Sterns, well, he's been charged with abusing and murdering Madeline and is facing a potential death sentence. The story of Stephan Sterns is pretty straightforward, right? He gets caught with the images on his phone. They believe they have forensic evidence and other evidence linking him to the murder. So the case against him is very clear. What is still unclear for a lot of folks is Jenn Soto in all of this. I want you to take a listen. This is Jenn being interviewed, and she mentions Woody Allen and Woody Allen's situation. Woody Allen was like 30 years older than his girlfriend's daughter, and he ended up with her, Soon Yi. So knowing that, take a listen to what Jenn Soto is saying right here.
I've always told him that my biggest fear is that this would turn into a Woody Allen situation where the stepdaughter or the dad grooms the child and the child then turns 18 and ends up running away with him. I told him, like, that was my biggest fear and I don't ever want that happening. Like, you can't do that to me. Like,
why would you say that to him?
Because I never trusted. I grew up being told never trust a man. My mom put that in my body, never trust a man.
You see why the eyebrows are raised? Like, what is going on here? What is going on with Jenn Soto? At one side of her mouth, she's saying, I was always told never trust a man, yet she lets her daughter go to sleep upstairs in the upstairs bedroom with a man who she's not married to, a man who's not related to her daughter. So here's my question. It's about Jenn Soto. Did Jenn Soto turn a blind eye to what was going on? Everyone wants to figure out the answer to this. Let me bring in our guests who are going to help us. Joining us, host of Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel, Gisela Kay is with us. Also joining us, jury consultant and human behavior expert, Susan Constantine. All right, Gisela, can you clarify the context of this Woody Allen statement, and from your perspective, what you took away from it?
I found it so strange that she introduced that. Like, the police didn't ask her anything about that. She just said, I always, and the words are important, I always told Stephan that my worst fear was this turning into a Woody Allen situation. And then she goes on to explain it a little bit and say that, you know, when the stepdaughter turns 18, then they're going to get married and run away. And they can't do that to me. It's also interesting when you hear that Maddie had told one of her friends that her mother had said she's going to disown her when she turns 18. So if you put that all together, I think that my jaw was on the floor when I heard Jenn Soto say that. And we listened to it again and again, you know, in my community. And every single time, it's like, she really introduced that, so she had knowledge. That seems to me like she had knowledge of something going on.
Okay, Susan Constantine, what I want to do is play for you, and I really wanted you to take a look at Jenn Soto here. So we're going to play a piece of her interview where she's talking about what she knows. Does she know anything? So let's watch that, and then you tell us what you're seeing and what you're hearing.
You guys interviewed me, and when you guys showed me the picture of her, I believed the sexual stuff, but I didn't want to believe that he had done anything evil to her. I'm like, no, what if he did this stuff fine, but what if she's still missing out there? What if somebody took her? I still wanted to believe I believed him. I believed his whole story. So I was just like, I kept repeating that part. I'm just like, what if she did get dropped off? What if she got abducted? What if she's missing? But that was me assuming that you guys had the wrong guy. I wanted to think he was a good guy still, but clearly he's not.
If I knew anything, I promise you, I would tell you. Like, I am willing to take a lie detector test, whatever the you want, but I don't know anything. He's never mentioned anything. I've never seen any signs. I tried watching her like a hawk. I thought I was doing a good job, but I wasn't. I was oblivious to this everything. 4 years?
Minimum. That's just how that far back the cloud goes. I find it hard to believe for me that you were so worried about how many pills she took at night, but not where she slept or what relationship she was. His interest in her.
I thought we were all safe. I thought because that he hadn't shown me anything so far, like everything seems fine. Like he seemed like he treated her like
he treats you. In his mind. So now he's in jail because of what we found on his phone, not because somebody came forward and reported that he was abused.
No, I know.
She's not old enough to consent. She's not old enough to have a thought process to even want anything that was happening to her. It's abuse.
Where did you take her?
I'm going blank. I have no idea.
I feel like you're becoming emotional right now. I feel like you want to tell us.
No, if I knew what to tell you, I would tell you. If I had the truth, I would tell you. I don't know anything.
This is part of a problem. You did so many things and you never questioned it.
I didn't suspect him.
How can we believe some of the stuff that you're telling us, or believe that you don't know?
I don't know how to say it. I mean, I guess I'm stupid and gullible and very trustworthy, but I didn't think he'd be the type to do anything like this. I didn't doubt.
All right, Susan, you have enough to work with there?
Oh my God, Vinny, can I have the whole show tonight? Because I could really talk a lot about this. First of all, she's doing is distancing, right? When she's leaning back, she feels very defeated. She shrinks down. When somebody's feeling that way, they're feeling like they're being almost threatened or attacked. She's doing a lot of what we call forms of hand shrugging, and they're right out in front, and there's this desperate little plea to try to be believed. But see her shoulders pull up, her head come down. It's like a turtle. So all of that is low confidence, right? So we see this throughout her plea. Then when she starts being questioned a little bit heavier, that, hey, I would have thought you would have felt more emotional at this point. Then what does she do? She shows the emotion. So it's almost like she took the officer's lead, and then she has this slight little breakdown. But you see her hands kind of flailing like this. These are forms of hand shrugs. This is associated with deception. Her overall affect, her face anomaly, which is what we call a disconnect between what she's saying and her facial expressions, her underlying emotion is fear. It's not concern. It's not worry. The other thing is what she doesn't do is she doesn't downgrade Stephan Sterns for what he is. She doesn't ever call him the rapist, the molester. She always still gives him the benefit of the doubt. If she was truly that she realized that that's what he was doing, she would have naturally changed her language and it would have downgraded them. The other thing that I wanted to bring attention to, which I thought your other guest was perfect, is that she entered in the conversation about the Woody Allen thing. When a person enters that in there without being asked in statement analysis, it was in there and is doubly important and has a real concern about something that has been happening in her life. And it's a real concern because it's something she's probably experienced before.
Wow. I want to take a look at this. This is from an interview with Stephan Sterns' ex-lover. Stephan's ex stated that Stephan Sterns told her, although he was separated from his girlfriend, he still slept at Jenn's residence and specifically in bed with Madeline. This is the part I think that gets people so upset. Like, they're broken up in their relationship, yet he's still going there to sleep with Madeline. Like, how does she, this is either turning a blind eye or actually knowing, it seems.
I mean, is it turning a blind eye or knocking herself out? Because I think she was asleep a lot of the time, which is a form of turning a blind eye. To me, it is child neglect. She had a permanent babysitter in her mind, is what it seems like to me. From everything I've listened to, I'm like, oh, he said, don't you worry. You go rest. I'll take care of everything else. So yes, that is in a way, of course, that's turning a blind eye. But did she actually know what he was doing? I don't know, but I don't know how she can miss the physical evidence in the house. Pack with his special cream. Okay, he's packing that. There's a tripod there. His boxer shorts are in Maddie's laundry. There's so many things that she could literally just physically see that she missed. So again, turning a blind eye.
Susan, I want to play for you one more piece of the interview Jenn describing her relationship with Stephan.
What's Stephan's relationship with? What's their relationship like?
I was gonna say really good. Super great. He's always been super sweet and kind to her. Very accepting, warming, understanding of her because she's got ADHD, so she's kind of a little, I'll say abnormal. In the sense, like, she doesn't act like every other kid. But you have to have extra patience and understanding for her. And he does that really well.
And she's all right, from what I understand.
She just turned.
When she's around Stephan, does she act any different?
No, she's happy. She's like, hey, how are you? But she doesn't act any differently or weird around him.
There's no really easy way to ask this, but Do you think it's possible that Stephan and her are having a sexual relationship?
Before those images, I would have said absolutely not. But if you're telling me that on the other side of that penis that they showed me was her with her mouth, then there's nothing else I can believe. That has to be true.
Okay, Susan, what are you hearing here from Jenn Soto as she describes, from her perspective, the relationship between Stephan and Madeline?
Well, when you're listening to her, again, we're talking about the vocal tone, the pace, and the rhythm of what she's speaking, right? So when she's talking about this relationship that was so great, you don't hear any sort of pep in her voice, like, oh yeah, they really had a great relationship. He was awesome with her. You don't hear that. It's a very flat kind of monotone. And then the weirdness of it was when she says, well, when he, there was an exchange about when he sees her, and she goes, hey, how are you? That's the first kind of little pep that we got, but it was superficial. It was very artificial in the way that she had stated that. So overall, when I'm listening to her vocal tone, it's kind of consistent throughout. This lack of expression and very monotone, and also there's these long pauses between some of her responses. Is telling me that she's thinking really hard and she's very cautious about what she's actually saying or what she wants us to hear her say or hear her say to someone, to the officer. So that's something to really pay attention to, because these are violations in the vocal tendencies of her speech.
Susan Constantine, thank you so much. Still to come, we know she was being abused, but what did Madeline think was going on?
I know temporarily I was willing to accept him back.
Was that something out of convenience for him? Because you...
A little bit of both. We missed him.
One of the most successful true crime TV shows ever.
This is crazy.
Now has a new home on America's original true crime obsession, 48 Hours on Court TV. Coming up next on Court TV.
My whole world changed. That was the worst day of my life. A mother's life cut short by a clown at her doorstep.
That is unreal. Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. All new Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV.
We were in the process of trying to get him to come back up here to get his job back at Disney and for him to move back into the house for a little bit. I'm not sure long term. I know temporarily I was willing to accept him back.
Was that something out of convenience for him? Because you...
A little bit of both. We missed him. And I wanted to help him out, like make it easy, like give him a place, like a base to start at, and then for him to start looking for something else afterwards on his own.
We missed him. It's Jenn Soto speaking for herself and her daughter, who was allegedly being sexually abused by the man she said that we missed. I want to show you something. It's slightly shocking. It's disturbing. It's very sad too. This young girl who had just turned 13 had obviously been over-sexualized through the years. That's clear from the images. Is it Stephan Sterns? Well, we'll try to prove it in a courtroom. Why don't you take a look at some drawings from her notebook? Now, we had to blur parts of this because what she's drawing on the top, it's a woman with the legs apart, and then you see the genitalia, then you see male genitalia approaching in that picture, and you see the words, written there. Just turned 13. On the bottom is a picture of a man standing naked, a woman naked on her knees in front of him, and that's what's going on in that picture. And that's actually similar to the photo that was shown to Jenn Soto that Stephan Sterns took, allegedly, of what Madeline was doing to him. So, with all this going on, and she's writing and drawing pictures of it. It brings me to, I think, a really important question. It's about Madeline. What did Madeline think was going on here? Like, we know it's sexual abuse, but what did Madeline think was going on here? Still with us, host of Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel, Gisela K, and joining us, psychotherapist, CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey. Dr. Janie Lacey, she just turned 13. This has been going on allegedly for years. She's drawing these pictures, very graphic, with the words, like, what do you suppose Madeline thought was going on here?
Well, when we look at childhood sexual abuse, especially with the longevity of what's been reported with Madeline, that there probably was an early exposure and a familiarity and a pattern and what we would call either Stockholm syndrome or traumatic bond that would occur. The very person who should be protecting you, who should be guarding you, is the very person who's hurting you. And if we kind of look at this dynamic in which she was being raised, a lot of childhood neglect, so this hypervigilance and probably learning how to read the temperature and the mood of the parents. But we also know when there comes to childhood sexual abuse, that there's this dichotomous nature where they compartmentalize and they learn to keep secrets, because it becomes a survival mode, survival for a lot of people that are experiencing, a lot of young people that have had early childhood sexual trauma. So they learn to be fearful, they have lots of anxiety, and sometimes the very person who's giving them what they need as far as attention is the very person who's hurting them. So they kind of learn to compartmentalize because it's a survival mechanism in their childhood in order to kind of put this in a box. But we know that the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, it does come out, whether it's through friends or we saw in the drawing, and her mom being so detached from her daughter could give us a lot of indication of what Madeline was probably going through in that household of having to survive.
This is from an interview with her counselor, with Madeline's counselor. Madeline reported that her mom's boyfriend was living in the home and she didn't like him because he was, quote, weird. When she pressed Madeline about why she felt he was weird, she claimed it was because he ate all their food, hangs out in their living room, and makes her feel uncomfortable. Madeline reported in December that mom's boyfriend was moving out of the home, and that made her happy. In an interview with her friend, Madeline's friend stated that he, Stephan, recently moved out of the residence for an unknown reason. When she asked Madeline why he did, she, quote, ignored the question. So, Gisela, to me, this is the other complicated part of this. Like, what did Madeline think was going on? We haven't seen any evidence of her speaking out to anyone about what was happening. Is there? Because I haven't come across it, and Dr. Janie Lacey said it's common for them to keep this secret. Is there any information out there about her speaking out about what was happening to her?
I've only read in one document, I can't remember which one it was, but one of her friends said something along the lines of Maddie was trying to tell her mom something and then she didn't really believe her. The friend wasn't too sure what that was even really about, but it was something about, okay, her mom didn't believe her and she wanted to disown her when she was 18 and all of that. So I'm not too sure, but the counselor, telling the counselor that he's weird and he makes me uncomfortable. I wish there was a follow-up question.
There was more.
Of course, hindsight's 2020.
Absolutely.
And also the drawings that, you just showed. I mean, she's not sleeping. Like the 60+ charges are her allegedly appearing to be
We are out
sleeping.
of time.
Those pictures are not her sleeping.
We're unfortunately out of time. Big thank you, Gisela, Grizzly True Crime, and Dr. Janie Lacey. Everyone is frustrated about this, folks. Everyone is frustrated, wants to get to the truth. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.